Now, he's part of a new generation of revolutionary artists who are molding and reshaping Nigerian society and shaking the country up politically and socially. Folarin Falana, better known as Falz, is a caustic critic of bad politicians, police brutality, and social injustice. His activism motivated him to become one of the inspirers of the NSAS protests. That movement left him with a sense of the political strength of Nigeria's youth. And now he's urging them to put it to good use in choosing who governs Nigeria next in 2023. Oh, and he just happens to be the son of Nigeria's most famous human rights lawyers, Femi and Fumi Falana. So a family of activists then. Little wonder Falz retained some of that anti-establishment culture, in addition to being, of course, a lawyer and a superbly talented artist. Rapper, actor, lawyer, and activist Folarin Falana, known as Falz to everybody. I'm delighted to say that he joins me now from our studios in Lagos. Falz, thank you so much for making it in, because I know that you had a busy day today, but it speaks volumes of the things that you want to see happen, that you took the time to come in. So we appreciate that very much. And I just put into perspective for us what you've set out to do and to achieve with the upcoming 2023 election in terms of your political activism.
Thank you very much. That was quite an introduction. I appreciate that. Well, 2023 is definitely going to be a very major year for the whole of the country, and probably one of the most important years in our history, because we're at a very crucial point, at a point where everyone is angry, everyone is agitated, and nobody wants us to continue to go down this drain, down this very deep drain that we seem to be going. The youth, I can say for sure that the youth definitely want to see a new dawn. For me, I'm doing everything within my power to get as many people as possible to participate in these elections. I think what has worked against us the most over the years is the apathy. A lot of people have looked at politics as, don't really care, or, my votes may not really count, what's the point? But now more than ever, I think people see that gone are those days. Now more than ever, people see that we all want the same things. And at the end of the day, if we do not go ahead, to participate in these elections, then we cannot see that Nigeria that we actually desire. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And you, of course, in furtherance of what you're saying, you headlined free concerts just a few months ago in Lagos to try to raise awareness of the voting power of young people and the need for them to put their votes to good use. And the only requirement for entry into the concert was a permanent voter's card. I mean, how successful was that exercise?
Yeah, that is very true. And that's why I stated earlier that I'm doing everything within my power. Putting up a concert like that, or a series of concerts, obviously as an entertainer, I know the logistics involved in planning things like that, but huge respect to the European Union. They have a center for I can't remember what it's called, but their aim basically is to promote democracy in Nigeria. They were very much in support of those concerts, and also big shout out to all the artists that came through and supported those series of events. We did one in Lagos, we did one in Abuja, and at the end of the day, the aim of that was just to get as many people as possible to come out and be alert and be aware and be sure that everyone has their voters' cards and everyone is armed and ready for 2023. I cannot overemphasize how important it was to have those events, and I would say I'm pleased with how the turnout was. So many people came out. So many young people came out. The energy was it was vibrant. You know, I was very pleased to see how it was on those days. Yeah.
Well, actually, you described it on your Instagram page as prime entertainment meets civic responsibility. People were given the opportunity to register, I understand, at the venue during those concerts. And I understand that INEC, the Electoral Commission, were there as well. Were you happy with the number, you know, the registration, people who were registering and so on?
Yes, definitely. Super pleased. So many, tons and tons of people. I wouldn't have the exact numbers, but I know that so many people eventually got registered via these series of events. Like you mentioned, the INEC chairman himself was actually present both in Lagos and in Abuja. And it was at these series of meetings, you know, leading up to the concert, that we were able to have a sit down with the chairman himself. And we mentioned that it would be in the interest of the young people and of the country in general if we could have an extension of time to allow even more people register for the elections. And gracefully, that request was granted. And I think that was what helped to get as many people as we have now to register for these elections.
And clearly, I mean, you've talked about the importance, I mean, you mentioned that here as well, of new blood and youth energy in Nigerian politics, how much that ought to be part of the story of the 2023 election. But of course, getting people to register is only a fraction of the job, isn't it? In the 2019 presidential election, only 35% of registered voters turned out to vote. According to INEC, that was the lowest turnout of voters since 1999. And last year, in some by-elections, turnout was as low as 8.3%. Are you daunted by all that in your efforts to get people out to vote? Can you hear me now, Falz? Because I understand that the line cut, the audio line cut for a minute. Can you hear me now at all?
Yes, now I can hear you clearly, yeah.
Apologies for that, but I was saying that getting people to register is only a fraction of the job. In the 2019 presidential election, only 35% of registered voters turned out, according to INEC. That was the lowest turnout of voters since 1999. Last year, in by-elections, turnout was as low as 8.3%. Are you daunted by all that in your efforts to get people out to vote?
Yeah, I refuse to be daunted by anything at all. In my efforts, these efforts have to continue, regardless of what happens, regardless of what these figures say. These efforts have to continue, and I just have to make sure that everyone around me, everyone within my reach, everyone that can see me, that can hear my voice, knows how important it is to turn out, to turn up and vote for these elections. These elections, like I said earlier on, will be probably the most important in our history. We're at a very, very critical point. You know, I think even more than we've ever been. So it's very important that everyone comes out to vote. I sincerely hope that we have a greater voter turnout this time around than in the past.
The problem, of course, Falz, is the level of poverty, particularly amongst young people, and the fact that many of them, millions in fact, are unemployed. What about the temptation of selling their PVCs to politicians for a few thousand naira? I mean, people have often decided that the immediate gratification of the money is better than voting for someone who has made glowing electoral promises that they may never fulfill. Is it likely to be more of the same this time, or do you reckon it'll be different?
I think it's clear that these criminal politicians have consistently weaponized poverty against us. They've consistently used poverty as a tool to keep the people down, and that's what every single time, that's what they continue to exploit. That's what's coming back to haunt us, as we're seeing with all the security challenges that we're having all over the country. It's still the poverty and a lack of education, if you may, of these people, predominantly in the Northeast. That's what's making them, to stand up and commit all these gruesome crimes. And at the end of the day, if they continue to weaponize this poverty, there will always be people like that, that will turn up on those days and will still sell their votes. But I think now more than ever, young people are more awake. People are looking at the long term. People aren't as myopic as they've been over the years, because it's been going on for too long. It's been going on for too long. How long are you going to keep on coming and giving people that 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 on that day? And then that's what they have to put up with for the next 4 years, maybe even 8 years. So I think we've gone beyond that. Now more than ever, we keep on hammering that information, to as many ears as can listen. Do not, and for whoever might be watching me right now, I beg you, with all I have, do not sell your votes in these coming elections, because at the end of the day, that little amount of money that you're collecting will not go anywhere.
And that's a very important message, and I hope the people out there are listening. But you mentioned dodgy politicians. What about the issue of rigging, which has plagued previous elections in the past? Obviously, in 2023, the voting process is going to be more digitized. Does that give you confidence that it'll be more difficult for corrupt officials and dodgy candidates to manipulate election results?
It would appear so. It would appear so, definitely. I think digitization of these elections is definitely a step in the right direction. Hopefully that would mitigate, hopefully that would limit to what extent rigging can take place. Another thing that I think would limit to what extent rigging can take place is if people really and truly come out in numbers. On that day, when you go, when you vote, you stay, you stand, make sure those votes are counted in your presence. Be determined to protect your votes at all cost. I think that's the energy that we have now. Like you mentioned earlier on, just before we started discussing, there's a new energy that we have been breeding, especially since the NSAS protests. That energy has continued. It has spiraled into something else. There is a movement right now that's going on. If you like, you can call it a revolution. It just isn't being done by any violent means. But everyone is more alert now. Everyone wants to do everything within their power to change the status quo. And I think that, that's another thing that we can do to mitigate rigging that might take place. Be determined to go out there and vote, and be determined to protect our votes by all costs.
I would imagine also that part of what you're doing as well is also voter education, and the fact that they need to be able to pick who they think are the best candidates to deliver whatever they want the candidates to deliver for them, which obviously is a better country. So let's turn to the candidates, Falz. Which of the front runners has made the most impact on you, and which of them are you likely to support?
I knew we were going to arrive at this question eventually, one way or the other. However, at this very moment, I cannot say, okay, this is my candidate or that is my candidate. What I can say for sure is I've always kind of vocalized that I'm in no way in support of the same old system that has brought about this rot. So anyone that's coming from this same system that has brought about this rot knows for sure I'm not going to vote for them. Everyone knows that. I've always said that. I think it's important for people to look to candidates, look at the people rather than the parties. Now, if you look at the people that are the front runners now, who has a proven track record of doing something for the people, who has a proven track record of selflessness, of honesty, of transparency, of, you know, wanting the best for everyone. You know, I think these are the things that people should look out for, to put in the simplest terms. You can't expect that somebody that has been in this same rotten system all these years will suddenly overnight change. It's not going to happen. You know, if people look to the individuals, because the political parties that we have and that we've had in this country have never stood for any form of ideology, as opposed to what it should be. You know, political parties are meant to be run on ideology. But if you ask, whether it's APC or PDP or whatever, if you ask even the front runners right now, what is the ideology of your political party? I'm sure they don't know what to say to you. You know, they're being run like clubs. They're switching, they're jumping from one to the other. You know, that's why definitely I personally, like I said, would never vote for anyone that has been in the same rotten system. Yeah, that's my own personal opinion.
Yes, well, that's a good point. The fact, of course, is that most of them, certainly the front runners, have all been part of the system, although, as you correctly pointed out, they participated in it in different ways. But looking beyond the election, Falz, I mean, there are, of course, tens of millions of people in this country under the age of 33. They've got quite a steep hill to climb up, don't they? I mean, they'll get a country that's essentially broken, and they have to take it and walk with it, because it's not going to be, or it's not being handed over to them in a good state, is it?
Yeah, it's not. It's terribly sad. It's terribly sad. When I think about the people that are coming, you know, when I think about the young generation and what the future holds for us, it's sad to see that this is what we're inheriting from our fathers. I say to my dad all the time, you know, I say it's their fault. You know, our parents' generation, I say it's their fault. I say that they allowed this to happen because I feel like for a very long time, the energy that Nigeria has been one of just being so docile, just being so lackadaisical to all the mess that has been going on. Ever since I've known, ever since I was conscious of what was happening around me, Nigeria has been a mess. This next month, I'm going to be 32. Nigeria is still a mess. It's really sad for the people that are coming, but I like that I'm seeing optimism. I like that I'm seeing positive energy from the younger ones, and I hope that this continues, because it's the only thing that can bring us out of this rot.
Well, quite. And in fairness to your father, if there were as many Nigerians as himself who stood up for truth and justice, I mean, you're right in the sense that it's clearly his generation, but if there were that many who fought against injustice like he has and stood for the truth, then perhaps Nigeria wouldn't be in the state that it is. But let's move away from politics for a minute, Falz, and turn to your art, because, I mean, you have a lot of fans who love your music and your style and your public profile, and I'm certainly one of them, I have to say. What are you working on at the moment, artistically and musically?
Excuse me. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. You know, musically, I recently dropped an album, June this year. I dropped an album called Bad. And it's a 12-track album. You know, it's it's a different sort of project. You know, I wanted to do things differently on this project. I wanted to come from a different dimension. So on this project, even though I'm predominantly a rapper, I'm doing a lot of singing. You know, I've you know, infused a lot of melody, and it's a project that's, even theme-wise, you know, isn't maybe what you would ordinarily hear from me. But at the end of the day, I realized people wanted to hear something different from me. So it's been very well received at the moment. This Friday, actually, I will be putting out a brand new music video for one of the hit tracks on this album. It's called Gentleman. So stay looking forward to that. On the film side of things, there's a big movie coming out this month. On the 23rd, I believe, it will be hitting the cinemas. It's called Brotherhood. I play lead character in that movie alongside Toby Bakre. It's action-packed. Action movies are not often explored enough on this side of the world. I feel like people kind of run away from that because of the special effects involved and, you know, maybe not being able to execute perfectly. However, this time around, I think we will all watch something that we'll be superbly proud of.
Well, I have to say, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm a bit of a movie buff myself. So I'm going to make a note of the release date, and I will certainly turn up at the cinemas to see that. And I will also look out for that new music video. And I want to say, Mr. Falana, as well as, of course, Falz, in summary, this, would you say, is an interesting, troubled period in Nigeria's history, but one that is hopeful for you?
It's tough. It's very tough. I'll be 100% honest with you. It's very tough. Just about 2 nights ago, I was at a get-together with a couple of friends, and what were we celebrating? One of us was relocating, and that's the same story in almost every circle. There's a very serious drain that's happening right now. Everybody is running away. The situation is too horrible for the young people to bear. They're looking for greener pastures outside. It's so crazy. It's very tough for us to say that, yes, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We really, really have to open our eyes to see that light. However, I choose to still see that light. I choose to still be hopeful amidst all this mess that we're going through. And I truly believe that if we all keep up this energy in 2023, if we all go out there to vote for somebody that will truly, truly change the state of affairs, then 2023 can genuinely be the beginning of that new Nigeria that we seek.
And on that bucolic note, I want to say thank you very much indeed. Folarin Falana, popularly known as Falz. He's a rapper, actor, lawyer, and activist, and he joined me from our studios in Lagos. Thank you very much indeed. That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja and Lagos. Bye-bye, and thank you for watching.